Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Jimmy Foosball here with another HFL 2024 recap. This week we will be discussing week 9 in the HFL, but before we do that, let's talk about all of the trades that occurred going into week 9. Starting with October 29th, JP receives Josh Allen and Frank receives Chase Brown. October 30th at 4:25 p.m., Mike receives Evan Ingram and Cleary receives Cedric Tillman. At 7:20 p.m., our first blockbuster trade of the 2024 season took place, courtesy of Frank and Fink, truly moving towards Frank's totally original game plan that he is hashtagging make 2 and 6 great again. In this trade, Frank receives David Njoku, Saquon Barkley, and Khalil Shakir, and Fink receives Garrett Wilson, Kyle Pitts, and Jonathan Taylor. One day later, October 31st, happy Halloween, 5:07 p.m., 2 and 6 is not done. Frank receives Alexander Madison and JD receives Keenan Allen. Later that night at 9:22 p.m., Frank again receives Chris Olave and David receives Khalil Shakir and Alexander Madison. I gotta say, I respect the push that Frank was making throughout the week. He is not going down without a fight. So without further ado, let's get into our week 9 recap. Our fantasy player of the week is Jackson Smith-Njigba with 34.5 points. He has 7 receptions for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. Our kicker of the week is Tyler Bubble Bass. You forgot the pickle. 3 for 3 field goals, 1 for 2 extra point. Defense of the week is the Chargers defense. Special teams with 3 interceptions, 10 points allowed, and a block. In the bye weeks for week 9 were the 49ers and the Steelers, so no players from them. Going over our first matchup, it is between Chaz McDonkey, aka the Commish, versus the Manager. This is 2 and 6 teams facing off. Very important game, and Boston gets the W, 137.94 to the Manager's 99.42. He fails to crack 100 points. Top performers for the Commish are JSN, our fantasy player of the week, Joe Burrow, and JK Dobbins. Top performers for the Manager, the Chargers defense, our defense of the week, Bijan Mustard and Matthew Stafford. Joe Burrow with 251 yards, 5 touchdown passes, and 1 pick for 29.14 points. J.K. Dobbins, 85 yards, 2 touchdowns for 23.5 points. And JSN, we went over the stat line, 34.5 points. And for David, Matthew Stafford, 298 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception for 17.92 points. Bijan Robinson, 86 yards for 18 points. And the Chargers defense, the defense of the week, we went over the stat line already. David now with a 2 and 7 record. Boston with a 3 and 6 record. Moving on to our second matchup of week 9. We have our duck of the week, Just My versus Squidward Tortellini. This is 2 5 and 3 teams facing off. Squidward Tortellini securing the dub, 127.3 points to Just My's 77.14 duck. This was a surprise rivalry game as they both exchanged messages back and forth. I did not know JP had that shit talk dog in him, but Cleary really brought it out of him. For the Duck of the Week performance, we have Kyler Murray, 154 yards, 4.76. Josh Jacobs, 95 yards, 11.8. Tyrone Tracy Jr., 66 yards, 7.4. Justin Jefferson, 7 receptions, 137 for 19.08. Terry McLaurin, 2 receptions, 19 yards, 2 touchdowns, 14.9. Dalton Kincaid, 4 receptions, 32 yards, 5.2. Marvin Harrison Jr., 2 receptions for 34 yards, 2.4 points. Jalen Waddle, 2 receptions, -4 yards, and a touchdown for 6.6. Denver defense allowed 41 points, -2 points. Harrison Butker, 7 points for the kicker. On the other side, for Tortellini, his top performers, Josh Allen, Devontae Adams, and Jaden Reed. Josh Allen, 235 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick for 22.1 points in his first game with Team Tortellini. Devontae Adams, walk-off touchdown, 7 receptions, 91 yards, and a touchdown for 18.6 points. Jaden Reed, 5 receptions, 113 yards for 14.8 points. And with this victory, JP moves on to 6-3. Cleary now with a 5-4 record. Our third matchup of the week is between I'm on a Boat versus Fratty Jones. In this matchup, a surprise victory for Fratty, 115.2 to 79.86. For Lombardi, his top performers were Jaden Daniels, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and James Cook. For JD, his top performers were Jalen Hurts, Alvin Kamara, and Kareem Hunt. Jaden Daniels, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns for 19.86 points. James Cook, 44 yards, 9.4 points. And for ASB, 7 receptions, 56 yards, and a touchdown for 15.1 points. On the other side, Jalen Hurts, 230 yards, 2 total touchdowns for 29.9 points. Alvin Kamara, 155 yards, 25.5 points. And Kareem Hunt, 106 yards and a touchdown for 19.2 points. Lombardi now has a 6-3 record. JD trying to make a late push with a 3-6 record. Our fourth matchup of the week features our team of the week, Intimidation Infinite XX. He's going up against the Hairline Avengers. And Frank gets the W, 149.34 to 125.8. For Gabe, his top performers are Geno Smith, Cortland Sutton, and Ramondre Stevenson. Frank, our team of the week, we will go over that afterwards. Geno Smith, 363 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks, 23.12 points. Ramondre Stevenson, 16 yards, 2 total touchdowns, 19.9 points. And Cortland Sutton, 7 receptions, 122 yards, and a passing touchdown for 20.78 points. For Frank, the man of many trades this week, going through the lineup, Derek Carr, 236 yards and a touchdown for 13.44 points. Saquon Barkley, the demon himself, 159 yards, 2 total touchdowns, and a fumble, 32.4 points. Add one of, if not the greatest hurdle in NFL history. Chase Brown, 120 yards, reception touchdown, 25.2 points. Calvin Ridley, 5 receptions, 73 yards, 9.8. Chris Olave, scary concussion, only has 1 reception, 13 yards, 1.8 points. David Njoku, newly acquired, 5 receptions, 29 yards, 5.4 points. Rico Dowdle, 75 yards, a reception touchdown, 19.2 points. Quentin Johnston, 4 receptions, 118 yards, a touchdown for 21 points. Cincy defense, 11 points. And Brandon Aubrey, 10.1 points. Congratulations to Frank on the W. He is now 3-6. Also trying to make a late playoff push. Gabe with a 4-5 record now. Moving on to our fifth matchup, it is between Mr. Miami and Sosa Jeff. Sosa Jeff trying to punch Mr. Miami's ticket to the consolation bracket. He gets the W this week, 135.6 points to Mr. Miami's 101.02 points. Joe's top performers are Bo Nix, Tank Dell, and Travis Kelce. Zach's top performers, Devon Achane, DeAndre Hopkins, and Lamar Jackson. Bo Nix with 223 yards, a reception touchdown, and a pick for 17.22 points. Tank Dell with 6 receptions, 126 yards, 16.6 points. Travis Kelce, 14 receptions, 100 yards for 16 points. Lamar Jackson, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns for 23.6 points. Achane, 63 yards, 2 total touchdowns, 28.1 points. And Hopkins with 8 receptions, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns, 24.6 points. Joe now with a 2-7 record. Zach with an 8-1 record. Our sixth and final matchup of week 9 is the game of the week. It's between Bamford Legend and Brees Company. 2 teams looking for playoff positions, doing very well this season. Think 6-2 and Mike 5-3 going into the week. And in this matchup, Mike gets the W, 147.64 to 132.02. Top performers for Fink are Zay Flowers, Garrett Wilson, and Tony Pollard. Top performers for Mike are Derrick Henry, Patrick Mahomes, and Chuba Hubbard. Dak Prescott goes down with an injury, 133 yards, 1 touchdown for 12.32 points. Joe Mixon starts the week with a 17.6 point performance. Zay Flowers, 5 receptions, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns for 28.2 points. Garrett Wilson also starts the week with a 9 reception, 90-yard, 2 touchdown performance, 25.54 points, and one of the greatest catches of all time. Tony Pollard, 128 yards, 17.9 points. On the other side for Mike, Patrick Mahomes, 291 yards, 3 touchdown passes, 24.54 points. Derrick Henry, 106 yards, 2 touchdowns for 26.8 points. Chuba Hubbard, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns for 20.2 points. Fink now has a 6-3 record. Mike with a 6-3 record as well. And here we have our current standings after week 9. Sosa Jeff sitting firmly in first, 8-1. 4 6-3 teams. Cleary with the 5-4 record. Gabe with a 4-5 record. Fratty, Intimidation, and Chaz McDonkey trying to make the push with 3-6 records. Mr. Miami 2-7, and the manager 2-7 as well. Before we go, let's look into our Week 10 preview. Some matchups we're looking at. We have Sosa Jeff versus I'm on a Boat. 2 playoff prospects, big matchup over there. We have Intimidation Infinite versus Bamford Legend. Intimidation trying to make his 2-6 push, and Fratty Jones also with the 3-6 record trying to make his push against Just My in week 10. I want to thank everybody for watching the HFL recap this week. It has been a pleasure. I am your host, Jimmy Foosball. Thank you all for watching this week. I will see you guys in the week 10 recap. Peace.